Have you ever made a mistake giving somebody magic items? Like of the caliber that I did when I gave Nick essentially a lightsaber in the first dungeon that I've ever designed?
Yeah, there has been a few times where I've given folks magic items they got not to have yet. Yeah. You want to go run people through that one?
Yeah, so backstory real fast. In the first campaign that I ran, I made up a bunch of magic items and stuff because I wanted, like, magic items that were less crunchy and more fluffy. And that ended with one of them, one of the characters, played by Nick. He got a cursed sword that he takes damage, and if he gets crit fail, it leaves like a permanent wound on his character. But when he gets his blood on this cursed blade, it can cut through anything. And what I meant was for that to be like a lightsaber in episode 4 or 5 of Star Wars, where like it cuts off a guy's arm and then you put that shit away. And it turned out to be more like a lightsaber in episode 1 of Star Wars, where they carve right through the door. Like, the very first time they're locked into a room, they don't try to hack anything. They pull out their lightsabers and start melting holes in the door.
Which, people bitch about that scene. I think it's sick nasty. I think that's such a good... As a little kid, I was losing my fucking mind.
In terms of Star Wars, that's very cool. In terms of running your Dungeons & Dragons campaign, I should have seen it.
Yeah, no, exactly, because we've all seen Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I designed this massive dungeon that had, like, physics puzzles in it where, like, oh, anything that goes up this, like, elevator shaft is, like, enlarged. And then down this path it's shrunk. And the plan was they had to, like, they were supposed to go through these things. And then now with their new size, thinking that, like, oh, the way back has somehow gotten smaller. And then they have to go through a different area, which would lead them to being shrunk. And then they have to figure out this puzzle with an elevator where they just need to be on the right size to get through the right parts. Or you could cut your hand on this sword real fast and start cutting through whatever walls are in your way. And that's what you guys ended up employing, especially after Nick got shot.
Yeah.
His character just stuck his head in the puzzle shaft, and then on the other end of the puzzle shaft, they didn't enter the puzzle shaft. They skipped that part. Up high above him, they were trying to see where the puzzle shaft went, and instead of like dropping a torch or something, I think it was Justin just stuck a crossbow through and just shot it down. And
it was either Justin or Sean.
And then. At the same time, Nick's character, his head was down there, and he just got shot in the ear or the neck by a crossbow bolt, and then they just blamed the NPC that they had kidnapped.
Yeah, we just stole Lyndon.
Yeah.
We just stole him. He was our guy. Not voluntarily.
Magic items can lead to a lot of shenanigans.
They can.
And I am a shenanigan hog.
Yeah, he loves the shenanigans.
If you give me anything, I'm looking for creative uses that I know you couldn't have planned for. Who would?
And it's funny because this is like the residual of him trying to beat the DM. This is what we got instead. Instead of Kevin being like, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure the DM can't do anything. It's now, what can I get away with? What am I? How can we bend? How can we glitch up the wall? Let's glitch up the wall.
How can I make the best use of the tools given to me?
He's always trying stuff.
Always. I'm incorrigible.
He's currently playing. I'm hosting a campaign on Fridays, and he's playing a warlock named Bartle St. James.
Yeah.
If you get the pun. And yeah, he has tried multiple shenanigan things. He's tried multiple little.
My favorite thing that I've done with him is when the enemies started fleeing, I just yelled, "No, wait, come back!" And because they hadn't seen me, they don't know my voice. They didn't know I was one of the enemies. I was like, "No, wait, come back! It's cool now." They stopped and they turned around and I shot him in the head.
Yeah, got his ass.
Blew him away with that Eldritch Blast.
Yeah, I've been making him roll persuasions, and he was very persuasive that time.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so another magic item. I'm trying to think of one that I gave folks that I ought not to have done that. So this is the situation, but in a different light. Uh-huh. It's not that it was OP, that it was like, oh, I just shouldn't have given this to that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you are out there, my man, and you know I'm talking about you, I'm glad you're still alive. So I hosted a campaign for a few coworkers.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so it was one of the first campaigns I hosted in my current D&D settings. This is Group 2, the Heroes of Apple, right? And one of the folks was playing a fighter by the name of Matthias Goldenhand.
Yeah,
and his character was ex-military. Two of the other players' characters were all ex-military because I'm pretty sure they were all. I think Matt might have been in the reserves, and then I shouldn't say his name. Sorry, my man. But the other two folks were both Marines, right? So all their characters, they're doing self-insert characters basically, which I was super about. They all took the campaign so seriously.
Can I interrupt for a moment?
Yeah.
If you're doing a self-insert character right now, good. Play anything you like. Self-inserting is the point of role-playing. That's why we call it that. Go on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for sure. Because, I typically don't ever play self-inserts. I try to explore the creativity of how I view the human experience.
Right.
Going back to we talked in the previous episode, I did my toe being trans. That's one way I like to... I always like to play girl characters. Not always. I played a few. I played Stern and Langley recently. But anyway, point being...
I mean, they both were immediately replaced by you playing...
One wasn't on purpose, though.
You're right.
One wasn't on purpose.
All right,
I literally had backup characters in order.
Sustained.
Yeah. I had backup characters in a specific order for Prince Langley, and we never got past Janice.
Yeah.
Who was great. I love playing Airheads, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had they were all gung-ho hoo-ah motherfuckers.
Yeah, and they got really into it.
And so one of the first things they did after they saved the town in the opening session is they went to a blacksmith, and he was so grateful that they saved his workshop. That was one of the side missions they chose specifically to save the blacksmithery. That he gave him a +2 longsword named Serpent's Bane. It was made to kill dragons. And so I had multiple cool things where they ended up fighting a dragonborn that he fought, because I based it off Heart of the Dragon Queen originally. So they ended up fighting this dragonborn champion that beat Matthias the first time they got encountered, and he dropped Matthias.
So the same guy that I fought this time?
Yes, I think it's Lindergosa Cianrath is the actual Dragon Queen character. Yeah. So the same encounter.
Yeah.
So but Matthias ends up encountering him again, and he does his dragon breath again, and just drops his ass with it. But then, because he has Serpent's Bane, basically I took this from Godric and Felix, his unquenchable desire to slay dragons in that moment brought him back up with 1 HP. It was super
very
cinematic,
anime, love it.
Very cool. I liked it. It was fun. So we have this whole, and then I have the Serpent's Bane. Is basically also like Frostmourne from World of Warcraft, where it eats the souls of dragons and then it gains their attributes. So he didn't. Technically, it's not eating; they take it.
Right.
But yeah, he has Cianrath's soul in his sword and gave him lightning powers. So he basically had the lightning sword. It was sick nasty. They were all stoked. I was stoked. It was a fun campaign. So we're doing several more sessions. They're spelunking. They're doing stuff. They're working for the archaeologist, and then for whatever reason, all of a sudden, radio silence. We were playing through Discord up until this point, and I used to work with this guy, but then I ended up leaving the company, and I'm still hosting the campaign though.
Right, he's still your
because it's fun. And then for whatever reason, radio silence. I just haven't heard from him. Haven't responded on Discord. Nothing. Every point of access is just going off on deaf ears. I think the man died, but. Point being, so now I have this whole sword. Oh yeah, it was also
This was during a very terrible time.
That's what I'm saying. So there's a good chance that between there were two disasters that happened, and either of them could have done it.
Essentially, both laser focused on where we knew this person to be.
Yeah. I have a good hunch this man is no longer with us. Rest in peace, my friend. But yeah, so I basically gave this character an incredibly lore relevant, plot centric item, and now the player's gone. So it's okay. I could just give it to another one of the players, but it doesn't fit any of their characters. Right. So now this whole, plot relevant thing that was going on of, Serpent's Bane is gaining too much power and it's pissing people off is just now a plot hook that was entirely dropped. It just can no longer come up because, I don't want to, So, as far as, mistakes giving people magic items...
Yeah.
That's what... Don't make a magic item so important... because if the player stops playing, then you derailed your own campaign. Yeah.
Because, I mean, that happened to Brody just in this campaign as well. So our current campaign that he's running, that I'm playing the dwarf thief / chef. The way that we run this, because we're all adults here who have our friggin' responsibilities. The plan is whoever can make it onto Discord on the nights that we have it, you play.
As long as we have 4 people,
we'll run it.
And then everyone else is considered corn golemed. But Brody usually never lets us actually use their abilities.
No. Only if it's like emergency plot relevant.
Yeah.
And not to save your character. Plot relevant so that the story of the world can move.
Yeah.
You can die. The world has to have certain things happen, though.
Yeah.
However, at our zenith, we had like 11 people.
Yeah, it was up there.
And we specialized. Like, my character's a rogue who's like got the criminal connection in this world, and 2 of the characters are like, they're space guys and solving mysteries about the space things that are happening in this world. And then all of the wizards just had essentially their entire lives changed. Like, 3 different guys are like, hey, I have to move, get a new job, and change everything. I won't be available on Thursdays.
Yep.
And so, like, all of the stuff that was, like, the meat and potatoes of, like, the Wizard College had a plot line that we didn't really get to see. There's all these little towns that had smaller quest lines for presumably lower levels when we would have everybody. You know, it makes a lot more sense now that he's like, this would have been, like, good low level. This was designed to be low level content. We were not supposed to level up this fast. There were supposed to be more of us to spread that EXP around.
Yeah, lovely listeners, if you're not familiar with 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, at level 1, things are scary.
Yeah.
At level 3, you get your subclass, or typically stuff that starts popping off, and you're kind of safe.
Yeah.
At level 5, you become a Superman.
Yeah.
And then from that point onward, you just become more and more of a Superman until about level 10. And then there are very few things that can stop 5 level 10 players.
Right.
Like, you could have a CR like 20 and still make a push circle and be like, loser, and beat its ass.
5, I think we were level 13, 14 at the end of Strahd, where we just circled up on him and pushed him.
Dude, we made a mockery. It was 2 rounds. I expected so much. In fact, so I was playing Roberta, my bard, and I was doing, for certain spells, I had certain songs prepared because I'm that kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I had a whole...
prepared and creative. Yeah. Don't sell yourself short. That's a good thing to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I pride myself on it, but I know some folks think it's a bit cringe. But you know what?
We're embracing the cringe right
now.
Yeah,
for sure. I love it. I eat it up. It sustains me. I didn't start my song because I was doing setup stuff because I thought, it's going to be a few rounds.
Right.
No!
He's going to go One Wing Angel mode, and then we'll have the song.
I literally had the song prepared since session 3. I was waiting. It was in the back of my mind the whole time. I'm going to sing this cool little song. It's so relevant to Strahd.
Oh, no.
It's about killing vampires. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember you were telling me about it.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's one of the mega songs about Castlevania. It was perfect. Because he's just Dracula. It's a song about Dracula. It would have been perfect. And I didn't get to sing my song about Dracula because we killed him in 2 rounds because we were Supermen.
Unfortunately, we interpreted all of the quest lines that were given about, like, there's, like, 3 different ways that you're supposed to be prepared to defeat Strahd. Like, you get this one guy to give you information. There's this item that is like a powerful weapon. There's this item that will let you do this. You're supposed to like team up with this group of people, and that's how you're supposed to fight him. And instead of like picking one and running it down, we did all of them.
Yeah, we collected all the power stones.
We speed run 100%ed the Curse of Strahd. We did everything that we could.
And Brody made a lot of changes to like the way the things would unfold in the actual module, and it was really cool that he did that. Like the Victor.
Yeah.
The Victor character was not supposed to be. He took the pog, like the artwork or whatever, of a different NPC that was just kind of boring and lame, and then to use that for Victor, I made Victor a more fleshed out, robust character. Because in my opinion, he is probably the most sympathetic character. If you read the module of Curse of Strahd, basically he's the son of the mayor of that of the town of the first like town you go to, not the village of the town, and he just wants to get the fuck out of here, man. Like,
as anyone who was in Barovia would and does.
Yeah, so he's just working, spoilers, he's working on a teleport circle, and that's his whole plot, is that he's just an angry incel, basically, trying to get the fuck out of Barovia, and honestly, that is the most relatable man I've ever heard of in my life.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of there. Do what you have to do.
That's why we're doing everything that we were doing.
Get the fuck out of Barovia. Like, yeah, so, definitely for sure. What about you, Mario? What's your favorite magic item?
Favorite? So it's a tough one.
Mario's about to rattle off like 11 things that are completely ridiculous, like the baby annihilator ring and the greater acorn growth crown that lets you take over people through shooting them with plants.
So one of the
3.5 was why.
Yeah, so 3.5, it's, the 5e's, it's a lot different. Magic items are a lot less essential.
Yeah.
They're still nice to have. But in 3.5...
Because you only get 3. That's not the case in 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5, you needed magic items. Like, and you could wear a fuck ton. Like, it was nuts. Like,
you'd be glowing like the damn 4th of
you'd
July.
If pretty much like, kind of what you were saying, like, Tony, if you're like level 10 or above, like, you're kitted out. Like, with... Might not be like end tier shit, but you had a lot of magic items.
Somebody uses detect magic on you, and you look like you're a neon sign human.
Yeah, later levels basically. But one of my favorites was because I love playing necromancers, people who make skeletons, which worked a lot differently back in the day in 3.5. You could create an HD pool worth of undead based off of what level you were. So it was 4 times your level. Which sounds like a lot, but depending on what kind of skeletons you were making, like you could have like a bunch of little ones, or you could have like, if you found like some good like giant corpses or something, you could have like maybe like 4.
Right, because they would probably cost like the equivalent of like 3 or 4 of the small ones.
Not to interrupt, but my lovely listeners, if you ever played a necromancer in 5th Ed and thought this is kind of lame, I don't really like this, if you ever have the chance to run into a 3.5 campaign, do your research on necromancers. Everything Mario has told me about playing a necromancer sounds so fucking cool. You're basically Ainz from Overlord. And you can just make the things you're supposed to be fighting as baddies, and they're just your guys.
Yeah.
And people hate necromancers because a lot of them will have like 20 fucking turns because they're controlling all of their undead.
So it makes them such good bad guys.
Which is because in 5e, it's you raise a skeleton and it's like for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And
which is so fucking lame.
There's a size limit. They can't be larger than medium, and it's other stuff that really pissed me off.
Do you need a new one every 24 hours?
Yeah, they disappear.
They disappear?
Yeah, you can't even reanimate them. It's cock. It's a cocked class.
So what you're saying is that reanimate dead is more useful as an evidence obliterator than a necromancy spell.
Yeah, it's just 5e. I don't know what they were thinking. They made it really. I would assume it ties into the changes that they did to magic items, because to make a skeleton in 3.5, you also had to pay. You had to have an onyx gem worth. It was like 10 GP or something per HD of the undead you were trying to make. So it cost you money to make one, but they were permanent.
Yeah.
And so the whole reason I was talking about that is because there's this neat little item called a Rod of Undead Mastery. Sick. It's basically just a skull and a spinal column as the handle.
Classic necromancer.
Yeah. I'm not the bad guy.
What, me?
Yeah.
You're just stereotyping because of my staff, which is made out of the Dark Lord of Scathal. I mean, it's from IKEA.
I think it did a couple of things, but the big one...
Schoolmaster.
The big one it did, which was crucial for if you're a necromancer, was doubled your HD pool of undead you could create.
Holy shit, double it?
Yes.
Oh, man.
So as long as you're holding that thing, you can have to 8 times your level of HD of undead animated.
That's quite a lot, Mario.
It is.
That's the sort of amount that I would then, as a DM, say, like, can we not?
And it gets even more fun if you pick the very specific class, Dread Necromancer.
Of course.
Which is a class that functionally only has 8 levels, because everything past that is kind of shit. But level 8, you get the ability, Undead Mastery. What does that do?
Does it double it again?
No, it's your Charisma bonus.
Oh.
Plus 4 times your HD of Undead.
Oh, so it like adds on to the formula. Yeah. Oh, damn.
Dude, okay, and that's another thing I really appreciate about what you just said, is that in 3.5, a Necromancer had to spec into Charisma to be able to force his influence upon his fucking undead.
Well,
which is a stat a wizard never would actually take.
Well, so, sort of. So, the Dread Necromancer is just like... That's if you want to be like the best at making undead, or a lot of people make the argument clerics are actually make better necromancers because
that's awesome.
They can turn undead. Another thing they could do instead of turning or rebuking undead, you could use one of your turn attempts if you're an evil wizard to buff undead.
Oh shit!
Bolster undead.
Hell yeah!
It's a whole thing.
You mean evil cleric? An evil cleric or an evil wizard?
Evil cleric.
Okay, yeah.
As a wizard, your options would basically animate dead. They're automatically loyal to you.
Yeah.
As long as you don't go over your HD pool.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Anything over that becomes uncontrolled.
Oh shit!
Which you choose to release, whatever one you want. But it's not yours anymore.
Yeah.
And then you can use create undead, which you create a higher form of undead, but it's free willed.
Would you read a story that was like a wizard summons like all these undead in order to do his bidding, and then he summoned accidentally like one more than he could control, and then the skeleton rises up out of the ground, and it looks around at all the other skeletons who are in lockstep, and then it just bucks it into the woods, just immediately just runs, just makes a go for it for freedom, and now we have to see what that skeleton does now. He's just out there being free while there's an evil necromancer out there. Does he help stop the necromancer? Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe through shenanigans, he ends up becoming proof that there's an evil necromancer. Maybe, because of shenanigans, this skeleton ends up on the crew that ends up fighting the necromancer, and only because this skeleton is there, they're able to get up to the necromancer because he's able to walk right up to him. He's a fucking skeleton. He's dressed in the uniform of the guy. He can walk right up to him.
Could work.
That's how you know Kevin's a writer. He's over here making plot points.
I'm feeling extra silly today.
Hell yeah.
I kind of started writing a story like that in high school, because there's also the spell Awaken Undead, which is awaken.
Right.
Oh, shit.
Turns them into a person.
It gives them an intelligence score.
Yeah.
And then they get a couple other benefits. But yeah, I had that idea. It's what if just a shitty little skeleton got awakened and then the necromancer killed himself or something by accident.
Right.
And then he's just a free-willed undead.
He's just hanging out.
And he becomes a dope-ass necromancer.
He just takes all his shit.
It was a whole thing.
That would be so cool. And then, he has to, basically, bullshit that he's, an actual big... I am a lich, actually. And the people are I'm not going to fuck with this guy. What's up?
That... A worse version of that, in my opinion, is, unironically, a...
Webtoon, right?
A webtoon, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. What is it called again? The Skeletons... the Paladin's Skeleton?
No, different one. There are two separate manga webtoons that are essentially that. There's the Paladin Skeleton one, and then there is the skeleton the Guardian of the Succubus has failed. The concept is that this skeleton, the last thing that it remembers is it was a skeleton that worked for this demon lady Succubus, and then people came and killed the succubus. He failed, and then he wakes up in a hole in the ground, and now it's the future, and he's been brought back to the past, and now he has to see what's going on with the world, and he's living a Groundhog Day style recursion thing where every time he fucks up and gets killed, he goes back in time, and then it becomes bad.
Well, good to hear. 15-year-old me was on to the animes with the
head of
skeletons.
Head of the curve.
AOTC.
Yeah, that's just one of those, a personal favorite. And then there's a subsection of it's items, air quotes. It's debatable whether you consider them items. But in 3.5, you created them pretty much exactly in the same way.
Children.
So, graphs.
Oh man, I love the concept of
that's
graphs.
cybernetics.
I was very
That
fond
counts as
of
an
those as a teen, and so functionally, like you would spec into a type. So like undead, aboleth, illithid,
Right.
fiendish,
Right.
that sort of thing.
You're not strapping like skeleton pieces onto yourself and then also slug pieces. That would be ridiculous.
You just gotta take the feet twice.
Right.
Or you take the flesh warper prestige class, that's their whole shtick.
If you start adding tentacles, you can take the feet up to 8 times.
But anyway, so
I'm so dumb,
you
man.
make
I'm
them like a magic item, but importantly, and this was the detail I was obsessed with as a lad, was that they're not magic.
Oh.
So you use magic to make them, but then after that, the abilities they function as spell-like abilities.
That's just cybernetics now.
But they're actually classified as extraordinary abilities.
Oh.
So they would function in an anti-magic field.
Oh,
So
That's useful.
I was obsessed with, I had a build in my head of where I created a guy who just monstered himself
Yeah.
as a wizard, and then his move would be...
The Franken-Wizard.
He'd run into the middle of the, combat, and then pop anti-magic field, and then I attack you with my 8 natural attacks, or whatever.
Oh, man.
And blasting you with eye rays, and possibly, or whatever.
So,
I have to write this.
That's pretty good.
I have a thing for you, Mario.
Unfortunately, you can't do that anymore, as far as I know. There's no graphs in 5e. And even 3.5 ruined them at the end.
Really?
Because they came out with a supplement called, I believe it was Races of the Dragon, and that changed how graphs worked. You now had graph slots. So they worked kind of like magic items where you could only put so many on. And then, specifically with the dragon ones in that book, it was I could appreciate what they were trying to do, but it just kind of ruined what they had already had established for many years. In order to make the graphs, you had to grow them, and so you had to somehow have access to a dragon egg with a live embryo in it. Huh. You would have to take some of the tissue from that live dragon and then make the graft from that.
Huh.
It was just it sounds pretty cool, right?
But it's just adding a little complexity.
The rules changes just completely threw out what had already been established, and that annoyed me. And so, those are technically not magic items, but that was something I was always super interested in. They're magic item adjacent.
Yeah, I had because you gave me a deep dive on grafts, and I had a concept like that floating around for my D&D settings. So that is one of the things I have a little bit of stuff written for, is specifically in the Infernal City. Yeah, they do grafting, and they treat it. So the Infernal City is basically modeled after a cyberpunk dystopia, but in a magitech society, and yeah, that's their version of cybernetics is a mark of status, and or I'm a bad dude is to have grafts and theirs are predominantly fiendish because they guard the Hellgate to the first layer of hell.
You could also get into body horror with it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's what illithid they would mod thralls sometimes with. They had a couple of illithid grafts where it's as a player character, you're why would I ever want that? They're not for you.
That's hilarious.
So there was one that was basically you turn a thrall into a relay point for the mind blast. So you send it through the thrall, and then he acts as a receiver, and then blasts in lieu of you.
I cast 5G tower.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's very fun. Then
there are so much stuff in 3.5 that's not meant for the players, but there's no rules explicitly saying they can't have it.
Yeah.
The entire Book of File Darkness was not meant for the player character; it was meant for the villains.
Yeah.
But then people are well, why can't I do this? And then they did.
What if we decide we're rolling an illithid party?
Yeah, we just need to give a guy to be the relay tower.
Brain sucker campaign. Let's get to it.
It's an option.
I imagine if we played an all Illithid campaign, it would very quickly devolve into the regular show Party Horses Planet.
Yeah! You're gonna eat that unicorn slump?
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck they say.
It's just...
You're just being a bunch of Cthulhu's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then 3.5, I mentioned it, it was like you needed magic items. So your standard...
What's your standard kit?
Standard kit for like a, you're like level 6 or 7 or something. Or 10. I guess 10 would probably be more appropriate. We had a 10 to roll high-powered characters, so it would give us like a little extra gold.
Right.
But standard items that like everyone picked, like everyone had it. You got a Ring of Protection, +1 minimum.
Right.
You almost always we would all also pick up at the recommendation of our DM a Ring of Featherfall.
Smart.
You never know, if you just get yeeted off something, and it's better to just not take fall damage.
Yeah.
Then you usually pick up an Amulet of natural armor, and then what is it? Cloak of Resistance, which would give you a bonus to your saving throws. And then from there, you could kind of just flavor it out, have whatever kind of player or character you had. Those were like the standard kind of kit, along with a like bag of holding.
Yeah.
I might be missing one or two. It's been a long time. Those were like, you needed these ones.
No, we were talking before we started recording about the bag of holding being like, bag of holding is so ubiquitous in D&D campaigns.
Oh, yeah.
And there's been multiple times where, like, we just assumed we already had one. Like, we started a campaign, and within the first 2 sessions, we're just assuming what we're putting in the hero's fanny pack, and just not worrying about where our items are,
just
because
put it
that's
in your
not
inventory.
Fun. Yeah. Managing items in pretend time is not stimulating.
We're here to kill vampires and suck dick.
Yes, sir!
Yeah, and then from there, it's usually like, you're picking up a +1 or +2 weapon. Like, armor. Like if you're, say, if I was rolling a rogue, I would try to pick up at least a +1 mithril chain shirt.
Oh yeah, no crits for me. I was adamantine. I'm gonna run.
Yeah. They didn't do that in.
3.5.
Yeah, no. Mithril just made it like way half as much.
Okay.
And then adamantine made it gave you a damage reduction.
There you go. I like that.
So it was like 2 or something, but it's still like 2 off of every hit.
It's pretty adds
good.
up.
Also, damage reduction and shit like that was just so different in back in the. Also, just you needed the Ring of Protection, the Amulet of Natural Armor, the actual armor, and all that, because AC used to be so much more important.
Yeah.
Like, at a certain point, it like didn't matter anymore because monsters are rolling such insane numbers.
Yeah, they're rolling
and
with
you
a
are
plus
too.
40. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that matters just a whole lot less in 5e. Like, I've had like 15 AC, 16 now because I maxed out my decks this whole campaign we've been playing with Brody.
Yeah.
Like, granted,
Rob's at a plus 32.
Yeah, God bless, man.
Granted, I'm ranged. I'm a ranger, so I'm in the back, but like still, it like hasn't been an issue for me yet.
No, speaking of adamantine,
except last time when the robot just honed in on me.
Yeah,
that wasn't good.
And just started lighting my ass up.
Yeah, God bless.
That's the first time though where like an enemy is like just charged me and like fucked me up in a single turn.
They don't like guns. They don't like getting shot.
Yeah, speaking of regretting items, like I don't know if Brody's still excited he gave me that laser gun.
Yeah.
And with that,
we should probably do an intro.
Yeah.
So, hi.
Yeah. Welcome to Scryer Stream. I am your host, Famfare.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mario.
And if you enjoy the nature of this content, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe on YouTube. You can also give us a follow on Blue Sky, and you can support us on Patreon. And, speaking of adamantine weapons, Kevin, you wanted to talk about a
I've
certain
been
shenanigans?
desperate to talk about my shenanigans.
We have brought up Morgani before in a previous episode, but I don't think we dive too deep into it.
We're gonna do that now. You might be rehearing some stuff, and frankly, good. It's an incredible story of wonderful shenanigans from an incredibly clever man. That being me, the fun ruiner.
God bless.
So I made this character Morgani. His backstory is that his class is a thief, but he's a chef who was run out of his clan for misappropriation of resources because I had a set of cooking tools made out of the very limited supply of adamantine, because it could, be, once you sharpen it and it's all set, it's unbreakable stuff. This is a knife that will never need to be sharpened. This is a pan that can get so hot that other metals would be melted in the flames. Could you imagine a perfectly seared dragon steak? And they're like, we can, Morgani. Get the fuck out of our house anyway. And I'm like, damn. But now I have an adamantine frying pan, an adamantine cooking, like steak knife, and all these equipment. And that was given to me essentially because I wanted to hit people with a frying pan.
It's a good bit.
And Brody thought that was funny. Also, he looked at the new rules for adamantine things, and he decided that won't matter. Because really, in 5e, adamantine is just basically an unbreakable material, and if you're attacking an inanimate object, you automatically do, a critical hit. So it can, destroy a wall really easily. For a cooking implement, that couldn't possibly come up.
Or could it?
Well. So we go to this, we join up as, an adventuring party through the, this company that's going into what is essentially Elf Chernobyl, where, magic nukes went off, and so now it's Elden Ring over there.
Akarthia really is just Elf Chernobyl. That's funny.
Yeah. And so we work for that company, and we're getting sent into this an old dwarven keep that's since been abandoned and potentially reinfested by monsters and baddies and whatnot. Ooh, go check out what's in there. And that is the Dwarven Halls of Copperton, or the Copper Halls.
Yes.
And we go in there, and we have a hell of a time because Brody mapped out this entire place, including little rooms where all the people were, and we went through every single fucking room, top to bottom.
Yeah, we did.
He didn't care for it at all. We spent 3 weeks of real life every Thursday, and then I loot the next room, and then I loot the next room.
And you could tell he was trying to dissuade us from doing this by all the fucking traps that were in these rooms.
Yeah. Every time it was if we find anything good, no, I'll disable the 5 traps then, or try to.
Now, importantly, Morgani is the rogue. His job is to disable those traps, which typically involves walking right into the trap. You can't. In order to disable the trip line, you have to walk up to the trip line. However, that means if I fail, and we were level 4 at the time, so we failed a lot, I got hit by the trap. Well, there was one trap that in order to get to the treasure room in this one abandoned dwarf houses section of the city, we had to go down this long tunnel. And at the end of this long tunnel, which I would say was 120 feet, at least.
Yeah, I think so. No, it was longer. It was you needed...
You were able to exactly travel it.
I'm trying to think of how quickly... Yeah, I guess it was 120 feet. Yeah, it had to be 120 feet. Yeah, you're right.
Something around there.
Or 150, around there.
Really long. Something that takes multiple rounds to get through.
It was 150 because it had the rabbit hop.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
So, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, sorry.
At the end of this hallway, there is a metal chest on a pedestal. But we know that there's more treasure to be had in this room because we, figured some other stuff out outside. So we know that this isn't just the treasure. This is potentially the treasure and a clue to the real treasure. So we're going down there, and I'm ready to disable this trap. And some people come with me.
We all went.
We all.
Well, specifically down there, like 2 or 3. Like
half of us stopped halfway through the tunnel because it was a long tunnel, and we're like, I guess we'll just stop right here in case somebody comes up from behind on us. And then me and a couple of the people go down, including Tony's character.
Yeah.
And we see the chest, and I failed. I whiffed it. It wasn't good.
Yeah, it's happened in D&D. Sometimes we just roll up. It happens. It's
so let me tell you what happens. The ceiling begins to lower. Not lowering like a massive hammer fall. No, more of like a cinematic movie style slowly lowering.
The impending doom.
An impending doom. Tony, what did you do?
So, it's very important you realize, I was playing a lawful evil character.
You were.
I was a prince of, like, a nation that, like, was just it was terrible, it was horrible to be there, and my character's only objective was to bring power back to his homeland to make them stronger. I did not care about any of these...
His backstory was actually a lot like Dr. Doom.
Yeah, basically I was playing a warlock Dr. Doom, and ironically, what would end up becoming the BBEG of the campaign was my patron.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, Brody actually commented that because I kept talking to my patron like an asshole, that's why that ended up I kind of like browbeat him into doing that. I thought it was kind of funny, yeah. Anyway, but
So he's there for selfish reasons.
Evil warlock. And so I snatched the treasure chest, cast fly on myself, and just leave them all to die.
He gets out of the hallway almost exactly to the foot. Like, he is the only... And then, we all panic.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
The ceiling is coming down.
No one else could make it out, like, with enough movement.
Now, in the moment, everyone is freaking out. It's important for everyone to know I'm bad at math. I'm notably bad at math. It is like, bringing up math, like Kevin doing math, that could be like you doing a bit at my expense and everyone would be in on it.
Yeah.
That's how bad I am at math. But I'm silent there, thinking I've done the math, and it turns out I did the math right this time. Mathematically, we can't get out of this.
Nope.
Everyone's going to be crushed.
Mm-hmm.
There's simply not enough turns between now and when, like, we would be completely flat. Not even, like, it's low enough that we can't run anymore. Just completely flat. For anyone to get out with their movement. Only Tony's character could have made it.
Yep.
Now, we did a couple clever things, though, didn't we?
Yeah, it was unfortunate you were far away.
Mario was in the middle pack.
I realized I had a solution to this problem.
Which it's almost like literally catered for this problem. Like the spell, I remember looking at the spell and thinking like, what the fuck is this even for? Oh, it's for this. Okay.
I mean, the way that this played out, it seems like this was written on purpose.
Yeah.
That's how the shenanigans work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm desperately looking over my options. I'm like, I have the spell Rope Trick. I cast Rope Trick and shimmy up the rope and yell at everyone else to come up here, realizing that, like, the guys down the hall, they're not going to be able to make it, but...
We can't mathematically make it.
Me, him, and him will live. Sorry, guys.
So for those of you at home, Rope Trick, basically you take out a rope and you just throw it into the sky, and then it makes a hole of space up there.
Yeah.
And it's just floating up there like a hole in the sky. I forget exactly how high, it might be 20 feet or something. And yeah, you shimmy up the rope, and now you're hiding in a hole. And you can, like, pull the rope up and, like, just look down the hole until it's safe, and then you just go back out of it, and then you're safe. And it's a very silly, zany spell. Like I said, when I was first looking over, I was like, this is such an oddly specific, weird thing. I guess for hiding, sure. But no, it's if you're ever going to get crushed by a trap, yeah, Rope Trick.
It has very specific uses. Unfortunately, half of us were across the room and wouldn't be able to make it.
Yeah, so let me explain further. There are 4 of us that have escaped by being in the Rope Trick.
Or just flying away like an asshole.
3 Rope Trick.
3 or 4.
3 or 4 in the Rope Trick. 1 just got out of there. And then there's like 3 people down at the very end.
Yeah.
At the no hope zone. which I very quickly told everybody, don't bother running. We mathematically can't make it out. And they were like, yeah, okay. Because I very quickly reasoned, if this is a trap that was designed for a game we're playing, probably the answer's here, not running.
Yeah.
That was my reasoning. And so I do my rogue business, and I roll, like, investigation and, like, thieves' tools and all these things to, like, really see, like, how does the trap work, because there must be, like, a solution here. They don't just crush their treasure every day. That would be insane. So they crush their treasure every day.
So okay, another thing to interrupt, and this is, say what you will about the merit of what I'm about to say. I find it hilarious. It is extremely important you realize that these traps are all designed to keep the elves out.
Yeah.
I love the fact
with
that...
dwarven racism in mind.
Yeah, it's... Like, there were multiple signs on the walls about being like, this is to stop those goddamn elves from getting our treasure. It really tickled me. Like, it's funny.
So the ceiling's coming down, and I roll all my things to find out all the information I can. I think Josh's character is down there, too, because he helps me with investigation.
Yeah, I believe so.
And I'm able to puzzle out exactly how the trap works. So you see...
It was Rob. Rob was one of them.
Rob was one of them, yes, because Rob's playing a gigantically fat character.
Which we were like, oh.
He's going to get squished. He's playing like a super fat Gith Yankee, literally named Frogbert. Because
yeah, I love it.
We're a silly group of guys.
I love it.
But I figure out exactly how the trap works. So what happens is the ceiling falls until it hits the treasure chest, and then it smashes the treasure chest through the pedestal onto the ground, and then the treasure chest is made of adamantine, so it won't break. And then that little, like, 15-inch, like, clearance between the treasure chest and the floor is maintained in the end room only, which is then lowered into the main treasure room.
And guess what I notably stole immediately?
The thing that keeps the ceiling from flattening everyone.
Oopsie.
And Brody designed this, and he knew all of this already, so he's basically running us through these last couple turns as like a, sorry it went out this way, man. Notably, Morgani, Frogbert, and... What's Josh's character's name?
I want to say Father Abraham.
Father Abraham. Father Abe, we're all...
Abraham Biggums.
Abraham Biggums,
Yes,
that's
sir.
right.
Yes, sir.
Father Biggums, Frogbert, and Morgani are all still living to this day, mostly uncrushed, because I have a frying pan made out of adamantine, and I wedged it in the end room against the ceiling, so we're all like flat on our backs, and unfortunately the fatter among us are getting like flattened out like a penny on a railroad track. But he bounced back because we ended up in the main treasure room, and I came off of that so hot and cocky, just like, I'm the perfect Dungeons and Dragons boy. Yeah. I am the shenanigans king, which would come back to haunt me quite soon.
Mm-hmm.
We get a bunch of stuff from there. It was all very lore important. It was a great dungeon experience. And then we go on and we continue our shenanigan of robbing everything that's not nailed down.
Mm-hmm.
Brody got real tired of it. So tired of it that a lot of the traps started to be essentially instantaneously fatal rather than just generally fatal. I am trying to disarm a trap we identify as a falling ceiling trap. It's the same kind of trap, so I'm pretty confident. My character has a history now of like observing these. I should have like a good chance at disarming it. And worst case scenario, I got the old frying pan. But as I'm disarming it, the first thing that happens is I fail my I fail one of the checks, and he tells me that oh, you need both hands. You can't just like one hand on a frying pan safe. And I'm doing it, and he tells me, and you can tell the mechanism from this one. the ceiling's coming down fast if it's coming down. And I'm like, who cares? Morgani's the king.
Mm-hmm.
So I failed. I whiffed it again.
Yep.
And that ceiling was coming down. Now, importantly, at this point, we've fallen down a couple of spike pits, and our wizards have had to waste spell slots casting fly in order to, like, Superman somebody from not dying in a pit full of spikes. So we've already established a strategy of if somebody's going in towards a trap, we tie a rope around their waist, and if it looks like it's going badly, yank them out as hard as you can. Don't let them fall in the pit full of spikes. Mm-hmm. So I have the rope around my waist, and they pull me out. Mostly.
Yeah.
Morgani's legs from the knees down are crushed into, like, salsa. Just flattened nothing. Like I've got 2 strips of roadkill tied to my knees.
Fuck his hubris.
Anyway, Morgani had to sit the rest of the Copper Halls out, and I played a backup character while Morgani was in town, being devastated that his legs were destroyed.
He orders a pair of artificial legs.
Yeah, so there's an artificer in town that we've previously made pretty good like friends with, because we introduced like a different kind of ammunition to him through Mario, your character. Mm-hmm. We traded the shotgun shells to him, and he like studied them, and so he's our friend, and he worked with me to make mechanical legs, and I spent some of my reward money from all the stealing and stuff we did on getting magic item legs rather than just regular legs. I had the artificer made these legs to have boots of spider climb on them.
Hell yeah.
So I can walk up walls now.
But it took a while for these legs to be built and manufactured, so he was back at base hanging out with my character's retainers, notably my backup characters.
We didn't know how lethal the campaign was going to be. We were warned it could be extremely lethal, and that's why he lets us take like max health.
Mm-hmm.
So Tony had backup characters ready, and like a good he made like part of his backstory was like why they would be there and why they would be each thing. He did a lot of work on it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And one of these characters, the one that he's now currently playing, became the sous chef for Morgani.
Yeah, he opened up a food cart for a while. We're doing downtime time. And, he opened up a food cart, and I picked the noble background, and one of the variant noble backgrounds, you can have retainers. You can have 3 retainers, which is usually a major domo and then 2 other servants. And so I had Janice, Sergei, and Ina, which is a joke that I will not expand at this time.
Yeah.
And basically, they're just commoners, and they won't go into combat, and they won't die for me. Like, those are the very specific parameters about them. But other than that, they're my guys.
Yeah.
And so I set them about tasks, because if you do something for, I think it's 2 months, you can, like, learn a skill.
Yeah.
And so because they're all unskilled commoners, I was like, okay, well, one of you learn the loot, one of you learn the crossbow, and one of you go be a chef. Go be Morgani's guy.
Yeah.
And so because Janice was already ascribed to be his sous chef, well, guess what your new job is, Janice?
Yep.
You get to wheel him around.
Yep. She was my my wheelchair buddy. By the way, this is a dwarf, so already a tinier man, now with no legs. So I imagine they have him in a tiny wheelchair.
Yeah, which is good, because Janice is also small size.
Which is pretty lucky, because he's being pushed around by a rabbit that, in my head, she weighs like 50 pounds tops.
Yep. Only because of the muscle mass. Otherwise, it'd be closer to 35 or 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like having a cat wheel you around.
It's really funny. And then it was also super prophetic, and like you couldn't have written this better. So yeah, he has to set out the rest of the Copper Halls.
Yeah.
And the Copper Halls culminates in a battle against the Balrog.
Yep.
We end up fighting what are they actually called?
Valor.
A Balor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Valor, Baelor.
Yeah. But we're like they've like mustered the whole like town militia, and it's like a whole thing, and there's like other fiends there destroying it. It was super epic. But notably, my character more or less sacrificed himself to kill. That's not exactly what happened. He died.
That's the broad strokes.
But I was being very aggro to make sure no one, because one of our fighter, if he went down, he just died.
Yeah.
Like, so it was like, okay, I can go down and then get revived. If he goes down, that's it.
Yeah.
So I was being super gung-ho aggro. I was playing like a melee brand warlock, hexblade kind of deal. And, the Balor had grabbed my ass, and then Dick Dixon, Mario's character, takes the final shot. You know, I tell him, take the shot, and he takes the shot, kills him. We all forget, or I didn't know.
Any of you out there...
So normally...
Yeah.
Me being a D&D nerd, I know most of the things before Brody has to explain it.
Yeah.
And I try not to metagame with that. I try to, I'll know what something is, but then I'll still try to act appropriately.
Yeah.
Same.
And this time, even had I wanted to metagame, I had forgotten one thing about Balors, and that's when they die, they explode.
Yep, they don't go quiet.
And Langley was already pretty low, so yeah, the prince, no more. And so I had to, when we went back to go to the town Copperton that was like outside of the Copper Halls, though, that deal, they sent us over there, we had to deliver the news to Morgani and Langley's retainers.
Yeah. And
so Janice was always supposed to be my next in line. So part of Morgani's story is that he works with this shadowy organization called the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
They're like a criminal organization of chefs.
Yeah.
And so Janice, being his sous chef, was basically like browbeaten into being indoctrinated into this organization. And so the session basically starts with like this timid servant bunny pushing around this like disabled dwarf, but she finally did it. She's finally guild approved.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an official chef. I've made something for myself. I'm a peasant. No longer I am a sous chef.
I have a trade.
I'm a respectable tradesman. And I have my character like ranting about this, and I'm pushing him up to the inn, and then the warlock's patron, my previous character's patron, closes the door, and it's like, hello, Janice. And she's like, oh, shit. Hello. And he's like, gives her an offer she can't refuse. Like, your prince failed. Will you succeed in his place? He asks me to do the quest.
Yeah.
And Janice says, does that mean I get to be a queen? And he says, you can be whatever you want if you win.
Go nuts, idiot. I don't care.
Go nuts, idiot. I don't give a shit what you do.
Yeah.
And so he leaves, and then I turn my head to Morgani and narrow my eyes. I am a sous chef, no longer. From this day forward, I am Janice, warrior princess. And I instantly start telling him, you obey me now. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I just taught you how to cut up an onion.
And I'm like, shut up, no legs, I own you.
Shut up, no legs. So I also really took the opportunity to really play up how bitter Morgani is about losing his leg.
The whole time he's like, I'm like, oh yeah, you lost a lot? Yeah?
Yeah, that was my thing that I did.
Yeah.
People
Dude.
were coming back like, oh man, that was crazy. I'm like, crazy, huh? You know what I think's crazy? Losing your fucking legs.
The one that got me was like one of the NPCs just like, oh yes, it was a formidable battle. I almost died. Almost!
Did you almost get caught? Well, you know what's almost as scary as that? Almost losing your legs. But I can think of something a little scarier than almost losing them.
And yeah, and Janice has been
something almost.
Has been. I wouldn't say she's the worst, but I'm playing her as an
fun little
airhead.
character.
Yeah, I try to go out of my way to where if my characters have a certain stat output, I try to play them as if they had that. Like, I try to be more charismatic. I have a charismatic character, more chatty.
Yeah.
I try to, I act more intelligently if I'm playing a high intellect character. And unfortunately, my last two bunnies, besides Langley, have both been 8 and 10 intellect. So I played them accordingly.
Yeah.
And Janice is a bit of a dumb bimbo.
Yeah, she's not.
But she has a 6-pack.
She's shredded, yeah.
Yeah.
And she can smash a chair over your head and do maximum damage.
I'm playing her as a Scofflaw, which is from, I want to say, Humblewood campaign setting. It's with all the critters. Mm-hmm. You can be like little animal critter people. And yeah, it's basically fighter with a side of rogue. You get a blind side sneak attack, but one of the main things is that you're kind of like a bar fighter or a tavern brawler. Mm-hmm. So like you can use improvised weapons with proficiency, and then also use them as finesse weapons. And then one of the things you get, I think, level 6, is that you can break the improvised weapon over somebody and do max damage with it. So, like, part of the class is supposed to be, like, you're picking up, like, a chair and just, like, breaking it over someone's head. And it's very fun conceptually. But, yeah, that's just what I've been doing. I've just been kind of, like, a scrappy, like... Because I'm trying to play her as if she's, like, a gutter snipe. She's, like, She came from the streets. She was literally... Her job was to clean the corpses off of the walls after the sieges of her homeland. She's just scrubbing blood and
Which
grime.
happened so often that they needed somebody that had that as a full-time position.
Job,
Yeah, because the noble retainers were Sergei, the major domo. He was learning the crossbow.
Right.
His wife, Ina, she was learning the lute. Janice was always the expendable one. Janice was the one they brought that no one's gonna... You don't really matter if you die. And she always knew that. She was told that constantly. And all of a sudden, oh, I get to be queen?
As far as you know, God said that.
Yeah. But for my character's indoctrination living in the horrible little bone keep, Draco Lich was like, yeah, you get to be queen. And she's like, oh, chip on her shoulder instantly.
Yeah.
Like...
So, Morgani has been my shenanigans machine. I got the mechanical legs put on, and then Brody has really challenged us a couple times with, like, certain environmental, like, problems. Like the river.
The river. One of the hardest things I've ever done in D&D is
massively
cross a river.
hard encounter to cross a river.
A level 2? Oh, yeah.
We did not have the tools, like, at our disposal.
Almost killed people, like, 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. You almost died.
Twice.
That was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking hippo man.
I have swim speed, baby, you know?
But one of them that we had was we had to climb a sheer cliff. We had to go down on one side, and then it was like the Grand Canyon where there's a little gully where the river is carved through the land, and then walk up a sheer cliff, like 200 feet each way. And we're not playing an athletic crew.
Also, hilariously, also fine.
Yep.
As the big fat hippo.
Yeah.
Because as a gloom stalker, I have a climb speed.
I love that.
So yeah, the hippo man is just shimmying up the side of the cliff like a fucking goat.
Making no fucking sense.
For everyone else, the plan has become everyone do your best to climb, but we're all tied to Morgani like one of those dog walkers that walks like 20 dogs. And they have like the waist holder with all the leashes leading out to all the dogs. Everyone try to climb down. Morgani's going to walk down with his incredible robot spider climb legs. And then if people fall, you're fine. You're still attached to Morgani, he's stuck to the wall like a cartoon character in my mind, and I love it.
Going back to magical items you shouldn't give people, spider climb robot legs.
Pretty good move.
I've been having a great time with them.
It's been,
and it has led heavily into my final shenanigan with the dragon. I gotta tell people about it. The
God, it was so good.
The next thing that I got is I got the thief gloves that I think they're literally like the gloves of thieving, where they like double your bonus for sleight of hand, just flat double it. Whatever your proficiency, expertise, stat increase was, double it. And then I got the Cloak of the Bat. That one I'm pretty sure I just
It's a good item. It's a good item.
Where if you're in dim or dark light, you can grab the edges of the cloak like Batman, and then you can fly. It's not as fast as fly, but it's pretty...
The Tanuki from Mario.
I have the Mario cape.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Or you can polymorph into a bat once a day also. That one hasn't seen much use yet, but I've been looking for a place.
Yeah.
Well, we've been playing this campaign for a long time now. Like 2 years. Of essentially every week. And
has it been that long?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
Huh. Okay.
But it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we've done is when we were first entering this area, before we got what is essentially like we have like fast travel now.
Yeah.
Where we have a giant flying boat that can teleport. Before, when we were going through Elf Chernobyl, we had to like walk like X amount of miles per hour, and then like we had to make a survival check to see if we would have a random encounter. So one of these encounters is a red dragon essentially just flew overhead and spotted us and decided to fuck with us. And
saw the balls.
You saw the balls? Yeah.
Yeah, from the two...
We used 2 Leomund's tiny huts, and we arranged them like a pair of balls.
Yeah. we're adults.
Mm-hmm.
We have jobs. But so we're camping out in the old magical nuts, and the dragon spots it and thinks these will be fine to fuck with and maybe eat, probably almost definitely kill. And he swoops down and is like, "All right, everybody, come out here. I'm gonna fuck you all up." And I walk out and I do what I've done twice now pretty successfully. We also had a separate encounter with a beholder, essentially the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
It spotted us while we were trying to camp in our nuts, and it just decided to fuck with us. That beholder I killed essentially on my own. I'm taking credit for that because I'm a shenanigans boy. I used my cooking talent to convince it that I could cook up a better meal than it just eating us all raw dog style. And as part of that, I used magical cursed memory water that to make the tea. And so when it drank the tea with the meal, it forgot everything. And it's like the water from the river Styx that I used. And the river Styx was like 20 feet away. And when you drink it, it makes you want to drink more of it. So he drank it, and then he doesn't care about us anymore.
Yeah.
He just goes over to the river, and then he just drifts beneath the surface, and that's it for the beholder.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. beholder. So I'm confident that we can do that again. This time, I do some of my best lies, and the dragon's like, "Well, how about this? What if I turn you all into crabs and kill you? Or make you all kill each other? Or you could have a succulent Chinese meal?" Nah, I'm gonna kill you. I'm just gonna kill you.
He's a red dragon. That's
I'm
their
evil
whole shtick.
and I want to kill you.
Yeah.
What if I made you the best shortbread cookies? Ah! Now, while I'm having this conversation with him, what at the time I thought was the B team was having their own discussion of plan. Turns out it was the plan that worked. Because it was you guys saying, like, we need to call someone.
Yeah, we need to phone a friend.
We're level 7.
And going back to what I was saying previously about me not shutting up about my patron, Janice pulls out the magic label amulet. Wagner gets your boy because she's dumb. She's a dumb peasant. Of course, all dragons know each other.
Yeah.
So she's just yelling at the
Racist.
patron, the Draco Lich, "Get your boy!" Like he's about to do some shit. Get your boy. And so he decides, all right, you know what? I forgot. He makes me do something.
We just stall him for a little bit.
That's what it was. Yeah, we had to stall. So Morgani keeps offering him a succulent Chinese meal.
Yeah.
And after a bit, the Grey Dragon just teleports away. Gone. Boom.
Yep.
Bam. But now we know...
I dust my hands like I did a good job.
But now we know there is a red dragon who will probably seek vengeance upon us for doing this.
Yeah.
So that is just a looming threat we've had for a while.
Not gonna come up again.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to come up again. Anyway, much later, we have essentially broken off ties to the Dracolich and done everything magically to make us undetectable. We're ghosts. Even though we betrayed this Dracolich, which we've established is like almost a godly level threat, he can't do shit. He doesn't know where we are. We're just dust in the wind, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're like, okay, we need to head to the Underdark for this next part of this for this next part of the story. We need to go down there. We need to see something. Let's go to the entrance of the Underdark that we know over by the Copper Halls. While we're in town, we can like get magic items and shit, like do all that stuff. So we go into town, and there's a big giant statue commemorating all of the people that died in the giant war with the Baelor and all the monsters and stuff that were hiding in the Copper Halls that our party, like we're considered heroes in this town for like our participation in uncovering that and destroying the Baelor. And while we're admiring the statue, somebody goes up to talk to like a guy who's like just like really into it.
Janice is having a crisis of faith.
Yep.
So the Draco Lich, and part of her backstory, like I said, she's like a dirt farming peasant, like a dirt eating peasant. Like she doesn't know what the fuck anything is about. So she assumed Wagner was God, and the arc had just been that she had to choose between doing his bidding and killing this like basically lich druid that was like a tree, or go and doing what the Lich Druid said and helping Wagner not destroy the world.
Yeah.
So she chose to betray him, and so she swore off basically the entity that she thought was deity. So she's having a crisis of faith. She's like, well, what do I believe in now?
Yeah.
And so we're at this temple. She's kind of having a little prayer moment, talking about the church of this, like, there's a whole, like, new church that popped up that's mysterious, and so she's like, I'm kind of interested in that. And so, yeah, they're talking to her.
Yeah, and then it comes up that not only is this person that they're talking to, like, very versed in, like, the people that did this guy is, like, he's like the head of the local church, or
he's like, or like the assistant of the head, something like that. He's important.
He's like a really important guy in the church.
He speaks in upper circles.
Yeah, and if like this party that is like known as Heroes is back in town, then we should like celebrate because like Copperton is going through like a massive growth period due to the fact that there was one war, so that honestly destroyed a bunch of shit, required a bunch of new like construction and stuff. And also because of people like us doing like the quests into Elf Chernobyl, there's like a lot more stuff coming through there. And then also technically I brought the criminal element in the form of like organized crime. But that doesn't matter. The point is that Copperton is thriving. Copperton is thriving and full of happy families. I
love how the Soup Kitchen was just a mafia organization.
Yeah, like, that's the way that the Brotherhood runs things. I think that's very funny.
It's a cool concept that like, oh, you can trust this guy. We're just feeding the homeless,
and they do feed the homeless. They're not,
and then they give them missions.
They're not strictly evil.
Yeah, exactly.
But they are a criminal organization.
Yeah, it's funny.
I had a thought earlier of the fucking Dexter's Lab episode where he gets a beard.
Yeah. Throw me your beard.
No, and then it's the fucking
evil guys.
Beard gang.
Yeah.
Like, gentlemen, we're going to make a lot of bread, and it's literal flour.
Yeah.
Take a look at that dough. Yeah, so good.
Action Hank. So we are we're invited. Like, oh, we could like throw like a huge party, like a dinner in your honor.
We should advertise.
And then he says like, hey, since this would be like a big party, we should we should send out to people that we're doing this. Make it a big event. And we're like, you're right.
It's good to get, once again, Janice brags to riches. It's good to get some recognition.
Yeah.
People will learn that I'm a queen.
We even sign the invitations.
It was fucking uncanny that not one of us was like, this is probably a bad idea.
No, not one of us.
We had betrayed the Dracolich not one session before this.
There are like 6 of us at this point.
It should still be fresh in our heads.
Yeah, we did it literally like last week.
Yeah, it happened last week, and then I'm over here running my mouth off about like trying to find Christ, and then this guy's like, we should host a party for you guys. And I'm like, yeah, you should.
And we'll all sign it confirming that we are alive, we'll be here, and it's definitely us.
It's so dumb because one of my character's key traits is that he's paranoid.
Yeah.
And so it's like, did I miss this completely?
Now, I was under the impression, the way that Brody handled this led me to believe plot stuff's about to happen. Now, what I thought was, okay, so myself and I believe your characters, we went on a little night mission. And that's what I thought was going to be important to the plot. Where we snuck around and saw that they have like a little meeting in the woods discussing church matters.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, in the crypts.
That shit didn't matter at all. We show up to the party the next day. I'm ready for our crypt adventure to come up. And then who do we see in the crowd?
Not in the crowd. He's sitting at the table eating.
Mario.
Yeah.
Is sitting up in the rafters, right?
Yeah, with my laser gun.
Invisible to the naked eye and undetectable to undead aberrations and like all sorts of manner of ghoulies. There's no way that this dragon could know you are here.
And then it's like a fucking classic ass like movie moment.
Like a Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, I'm looking through the scope of my gun at him, got him lined up in my sights, and then he turns around and looks directly at me.
Winks in the camera for you.
Fucking Draco Lich bullshit.
Yeah.
I should be undetectable. I am like the stealthiest character.
At that point, we did what I call the big oopsie daisy.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to go talk shit and be like, you don't own me now, and then see what that happens, and obviously start a fight, But
they looked directly at me, who should be undetectable, and Dick panicked and said, "We need to leave. We need to get out of here. We gotta go."
I love how you said, like, you can do whatever you want. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Like,
He wasn't gonna stay. Like, that scared the fuck out of him.
You can't do that. So
My laser gun can only do so much.
yeah.
we go to the guy who like organized this whole event, and we're like, so there's this guy in the crowd who is going to cause problems on the scale of like a Skeletor or possibly a Mumra.
Yeah.
So
we're adjacent.
So that like get the cops essentially is what we said, but also in the same breath, but get more cops than you need because we won't be here.
Oh, it was so scummy. I love it.
And he's genuinely was kind of like, okay, you guys are heroes. You don't have to fight every battle. And we're like, it's good you feel that way. And we snuck out the back.
Yep. And then as we're walking up that road to go to the Underdark, which was the original
pan
goal,
out. It's the dead of night. The town is in the background. A minor glow of a party in the air. And some celebration. And you can even hear music. And we're on the road outside, leading to the hidden path into the Underdark we've discovered. And then a massive red dragon explodes out of essentially the orphanage. And then another dragon of like bones and horrible evilness explodes out of the party center, and we all turn away and just start running.
Yeah. And they're having a kaiju battle over the town.
They're having a Godzilla fight right now.
And then he puts us back on the overworld map on the virtual tabletop and draws a big red X through the town that we left. It was
Copperton is no more.
good, dude. Like,
That's what I call the big oopsie days.
Oopsie.
Yeah, we really had a moment of like, we turn around, we look, and we're like, damn.
About that time,
Well,
by the way,
bye.
it took until like we're outside of the town to think maybe it was the invitations we put out.
Yeah.
That was pretty stupid. So, I tell you all of that to inform you about what is genuinely my favorite shenanigans that I pulled in this campaign.
It's pretty good. It was just stupid enough to work.
So, I have in my possession the gloves of thieving, the cloak of the bat, and my magical stick to the walls legs, and a can-do attitude.
And a chain shirt.
And a chain shirt made of adamantine
Yeah.
that I won in a bet with a drow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, to set the scene quickly
Yeah.
is we now have a spaceship powered by a fiend man, which it also is a living tree.
So
Don't
at
worry
the
about
time, it was just a spaceship that was being piloted by a cleric.
it did have the tree though,
Yes.
because we could heal it,
Yeah.
which was important.
Yeah.
We have a fuck ton of grenades, also important, and we have a slime that's trying to eat another slime. Turns out that other slime is a demon prince slime,
Yeah.
or the avatar thereof, and it has eaten a wizard's tower.
So there's this giant wizard's tower that's mostly covered with this slime, and on one side of the tower is like this wall of like living flesh that is just being fed into it because of like Elf Chernobyl Elden Ring shit. And then on the other side, there's like an unending army of demons that are just coming to fuck up this slime because they're demons. That's all they know. They just fuck shit up.
Yeah, that's all they know to do.
And then we were supposed to fight some demons, break into the tower, and then work our way up to the top of the tower, because up at the top of the tower, there's some things we need. We need to get that slime to eat that tower. That's our slime needs to eat the evil slime. We need to get a book from the bookcase. We didn't get the book, unfortunately.
We have 2 MacGuffins, yeah.
And then there is it's the key to the divine realm
That's what
that
it
we
was.
know is there. And we don't know what it does, but frankly, when you're going through Elf Chernobyl and there's an evil Elden Ring wall and giant slime monsters, you grab every MacGuffin. You don't leave any shit behind. So we were supposed to fight our way up to the top. Instead, with our spaceship, we have flown around to near it, teleported our wizard guy and our fighter into the actual tower, and the slime is like asleep. So what we need to do is plan this out. How do we fight the slime once it's awake so that we keep its attention while our good slime, which is only like the size of a guy, has to eat the brain of this giant, like, Godzilla-sized slime. The brain is about the same size as the good slime. This is going to be like an ordeal. We need to really distract this thing so it doesn't just turn all of its attention towards its brain getting eaten. So, our plan, which was a sick as hell plan, by the way. This whole thing turned out great.
Mm-hmm.
Our plan, we have our wizard and our fighter on the inside, and their job is to, like, there's like hanging tendrils that like are there, and when the whole thing wakes up, those are going to go wild. So you guys are going to need to defend the slime in there so that it can eat the brain. On the outside, we're going to be circling the tower from our spaceship, throwing grenades.
It was so good. It was the fact that we had grenades at all, because it's silly.
So we start doing that, and as far as that plan goes, it's pretty simple, like, work. Until on the horizon we see a red dragon flying in.
And we're like, dude, no way.
No fucking way.
Two of the metalist bunnies you've ever seen.
And as he gets closer, we see two of the metalist bunnies.
So, going back to my character's backstory, I had 3 backup characters.
Yep.
Prince Langley was the Draco Lich's champion. Janice was the successor. Janice decided, fuck you, dragon, I'm going to, like, separate my people from your influence. And then, yada, 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 all the other stuff happened.
What about those other two?
But there's 2 other bunnies. And I kept saying, like, oh, shit.
What happened?
What happened to them? We gotta be careful. That's gonna be a whole thing. And they're riding the dragon.
And they have taken a lot of character levels in the time that we've been absent.
Sergei was his class was Dark Crusader, and he had a arbalast that he was shooting with, like, crazy precision. And Ina became an artificer, but it was like a Stygian artificer, so it was all bone grafts and shit. Super sick nasty.
She was working off of bone and Frankenstein technology instead of, like, regular artificer, chunky gears and whatnot. It was so sick.
Super sick.
So they fly in. It is, we get our Twilight Cleric to start piloting the Spelljammer. And when you're piloting the Spelljammer counts as like an extension of yourself, and he activates his aura of Twilight. So there is Twilight all around the ship. We have this massive ship flying through the air with like a trail of shadows, and then we're throwing grenades from that onto this tower that's just covered in slimes that are trying to reach out and grab us. And then we're circling around this red dragon that is coming just to murder our asses. Mm-hmm. And we're getting shot by these sick-ass undead-themed bunnies. And I am a rogue. Which means that I only get 1 attack per turn, and everyone else gets a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And with that frustration comes shenanigans.
Because how are you going to sneak attack? We're fighting a tower, and we're fighting guys who are staring at us. No sneak attack happening.
Yeah.
Unless,
I have a potion of invisibility. We got it way back in Copperton, genuinely like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I quaff it real fast. I use my Cloak of the Bat to fly down onto the dragon's back, behind the sniper bunny. Invisibly, I sneak up on him, and I take from my bag of holding an adamantine chain shirt, and you know how, like, when you need to get, like, not need to, I suppose, when you put, like, a shirt on a dog, it's easy once you know the technique. So I just real quick chainmail shirt sideways so the arms are at the front and back of him over the sniper. He is now restrained and very confused.
And it's important to note, the dragon had flown close to the tower. The artificer blinked into the tower, and now they are racing against our fighter and our wizard to steal the MacGuffin. Yeah. So
which almost Rob got her because he was just like, dance, idiot.
Yeah.
Forcing her to boogie.
Hell yeah.
I forget the name of the spell, but but she broke it. And,
irresistible dance? Something's irresistible
and
dance?
she managed to get out with the MacGuffin.
Yeah, because she was built... Essentially, the 2 bunnies were built entirely around the concept of he is providing massive covering fire so that the enemy needs to focus on him, while she is built solely for mobility to go in, steal like artifacts, MacGuffins, and whatnot, and get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
A very effective team.
Mm-hmm.
However, I chainmail shirt on this rabbit, And then I throw him off the dragon.
Yeah.
And, well, I don't throw him. He falls off the dragon because we're on a dragon.
You shove him, I thought.
Yeah, but...
regardless, he fell.
He falls off the dragon. And especially because if you're walking on a dragon, fighting on a dragon, you're going to need to make some checks to see if you're able to maintain your footing. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, no, I don't. I have magical spider feet. So I am completely stable on this dragon while he has a shirt over him and surprise in his heart, and I push him, and now I'm no longer invisible, and he's falling to what I had hoped would be his death. And then the other bunny is able to get back onto the dragon, confused about why her partner is gone, and there's a dwarf there.
Yep.
I, at this moment in time, for the first time, am able to roll a sleight of hand check. I have a plus 18 in this, and it hasn't come up.
Yeah.
She gets onto the dragon, looks at me, holding the orb in front of her, in her hands, like, I've got it. This was her whole job. And I pull that shit right out of her grasp, put it in my bag, and Batman my cloak up and fly away.
It was so good, dude. It was so good. We couldn't have planned it better if we wanted to.
It came about so perfectly. I got these things what feels like years apart. The individual pieces of this. You can't get me to shut the fuck up about this story.
Oh, dude, it's that's probably one of my favorite encounters I've ever done. Because, like the virtual tabletop he had set up was cool. The imagery was cool.
The map he had set up?
Yeah. The whole thing was fucking cool. Or just, like, the visualizations of, like, what was actually going on in this encounter was so fucking cool. We're circling this giant slime tower that's, like, screeching as we're throwing fucking grenades at it and it's blowing up. And then a fucking red dragon comes to have a dogfight with our ship. So fucking cool.
And it ends with, once the brain has been eaten enough, the evil slime is trying to give us one last thing. It's trying to take us out if it's going to go down, and it like rips the tower in half down at like down the shaft, and like lifts up even higher so it can like use it as a bat to reach us, and it tries to like swing the tower at us as it's getting eaten, and we dodge it easy because we're in the magical shadow boat with the man with the magical hands and feet.
Oh yeah.
And however it does hit the other person in the air at the moment, that dragon got because that tower fell like it was like it was described to us as like being like a 600-foot tall tower or something.
Yeah.
Like it was so massive. Half of this tower falling on this dragon, the dragon's done. We saw it fall and crash into the ground.
With the bunnies on top of it again. However, they had Disney deaths. You're not confirmed that they're gone yet.
Well, they're almost certainly still alive. Yeah. I'm still holding out hope for Yunderson.
Yeah. That's a deep cut. And with that, we're going to end tonight's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great night.
Have a good night, everybody.